What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the UFC 283 live post-fight show here on MMAfighting.com. The first pay-per-view of 2023 is in the books, and we end the night with two new champions. One of them, Jamahal Hill, the light heavyweight champion. Brandon Moreno, now a two-time undisputed UFC flyweight champion, capping off just a pretty crazy night in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. But thank you for joining us. We have a lot to discuss. I am Mike Heck. Joining me, we have Shaun Al-Shatti, the wise wordsmith himself. How are you?
I'm doing good, Mike. First cards in the books for 2023, and I don't think anybody saw this coming. Quite a night.
Quite a night indeed. And someone who I know is really excited to talk about it, especially the main event, is Mr. No Gray Area himself, the exhibition king, our Woody Page, Mr. Jed Meshew. Hello, Jed.
I love this R. Woody Page thing. I'm a big fan of this new moniker. Sup, guys? The Horns. The Horns have come because a post-show is happening, the first pay-per-view of the year. And there's a lot to talk about, guys. There's a lot.
Yes, there is a lot to talk about. So let's just get right into it, because a lot of storylines in the main event, probably a lot more than we expected heading in, considering what the matchup was. We had Glover Teixeira taking on Jamahal Hill, and most people, despite what the betting lines actually suggested, felt like this is probably going to be Glover's night. It just seemed like he had more ways to win. He was eventually just going to get Jamahal Hill to the ground. We looked back on the Paul Craig fight. We looked back on the Thiago Santos fight, and we're like, if Glover Teixeira gets this man to the ground, we know it's about to happen. Jamahal Hill comes out here and does his best Cody Garbrandt impression and sweeps the cards 50-44 across the board. He is the new light heavyweight champion of the world. Glover Teixeira, tougher than a $2 stake, and subsequently retires after just a Glover Teixeira-esque performance where even though he got dominated, even though he got swept in the cards, his stock still rose, which is so crazy to think about. But Jed, I want to begin with you. I know you have a lot to say on this matter. So Jamahal Hill is the UFC light heavyweight champion in the year of our Lord 2023. Your reaction to the fight, your reaction to his performance, were you surprised by the way it all went down tonight?
I was definitely surprised. Certainly thought Glover was going to win. There are so many thoughts just rushing around my head. One, we talked about this a lot off air. If you had told me like 6 months ago that Jamahal Hill was going to be the light heavyweight champion within a year, I would have assumed something terrible happened to like every other good light heavyweight that created those circumstances, because he's not very good, but he was super good tonight. So maybe he is good. Like, this was undeniably the best performance of his career. Like, he showed a bunch of shit he's never shown before. He looked sensational. He didn't get tired even at points when it looked like he would. He didn't get over his skis, which is a thing that has certainly happened in his fights. He hasn't been punished for mostly, but he fought a super composed, really, really good fight and looked the best he's ever looked. He looked good, which is frankly not something I've ever really thought he's done before. So that's, you can't deny any of what his in-cage performance was. It was sensational. And so there's all of that. But at the same time, it's just like, it's hard for me to reckon with like such a big change. We were talking about our rankings update. Rankings are going to come out in the next couple of days here. Coming into this fight, I had Jamahal Hill ranked 14 at light heavyweight, and that was fair. Maybe I was low, and certainly now it looks like I was low, but like there was a legitimate argument for everybody placed above him to exist there. Like, I didn't have anybody he beat in front of him. It was just fair. And now he is like, I'm going to have him in the top 5, I think, is where it rolls out. And some people I'm sure are going to give me huge amounts of shit for that, but like, it's just incredibly weird. And before I forget, I do just want to throw this out. We don't have to talk about it, but because no one's going to. 50-44 is just an awful, indefensibly bad scorecard. Like, there has never been a clearer case. The way the actual rules dictate for 10-7 rounds than rounds 3 and 4. Like, those are 4 undeniably is a 10-7. Like, there's no way you can read the rules and not see that as a 10-7. There were like 3 different points when when Mark Goddard is like hovering, fight back, I'm about to do it. It's not going to, it overall doesn't matter, but just horrific scorecards that I wanted to mention too before we moved on.
Yeah, those are pretty wild cards. Shaheen, your biggest takeaway from this main event, because stunned. I was stunned at the performance. Like, if Jamal was going to win, he was just going to run Glover over early in the first round, and goes out there. He pitched a perfect game. This was like Shevchenko-esque out there in some regards. And I just did not see this complete of a performance over a 25-minute stretch like this coming.
Yeah, it kind of follows the pattern, right? It seems like none of us actually know how to judge Glover Teixeira fights beforehand, right? The Yuri Prohaska fight, we all felt like it was going to go, oh, you know, either Yuri's going to knock him out or Glover's going to submit him. And then obviously something crazy happens, and the complete opposite of what we expect happens. And same with going into this, either Jamal's going to knock him out early or Glover's going to drag him into deep waters and drown him. And that was very much not what happened. I mean, I joined Jed in that if you would have even told me 2 months ago that Jamahal Hill is going to be the UFC champion in January, if you would have just said Jamahal Hill is going to be the UFC champion by 2024, I would have heard you and believed you, but I would have had some questions. But if you said, hey, by January, he's going to hold the belt, I wouldn't have actually understood what you were telling me. So like, this is again, just another example of just how utterly ridiculous and crazy and the wild swings that can happen in this sport just overnight. Because I agree with Jed. I mean, I was not sold fully on Jamahal Hill going into tonight. He certainly seems to have leveled up, though, right? Like, that was I can't remember whether you or him mentioned Cody Garbrandt. That was a Cody Garbrandt-esque leveling up going into a big situation like this, or a TJ Dillashaw-esque leveling up going into the Henan Barao fight, right? Like, we have never seen Jamahal Hill look remotely that good, or like not as good as he did tonight, where that was frankly a thorough ass kicking, and there's no really way
Pillar to
about
post.
it. Pillar to
post.
post. And there were countless times where that fight could have been stopped, if not for the inhuman toughness of Glover Teixeira. So I'll just want to get all of that out of the way right off the bat, because you cannot take credit away from Jamahal Hill from what he did tonight. That was an incredibly impressive performance. That being said, I want to talk about 2 things. I want to talk about Glover Teixeira, because this man is a living legend, and just frankly, I am in awe of him. I don't actually understand what I watched tonight, how a 43-year-old man who just came off of one of the, if not the greatest fight we have ever seen, in a fight in which he took horrific amounts of damage and more or less just kept going until his body finally quit, Rory McDonald, Robbie Lawler style, in the final round with like 30 seconds left, how he could come off of that at age 43 and then go into a fight like this and just take obscene damage, utterly obscene damage, and not only survive to the scorecards, but actually kind of rally in that 5th round and, you know, get him down, get him out. He had an opportunity there for a half a second. Like, unbelievable credit to Glover Teixeira, who is by far one of the toughest human beings that we have ever seen in a sport filled with tough human beings. Like, it is, there are not enough words to describe the inhuman toughness of this man. I'm going to look up the numbers just right now in front of me, so bear with me. Jamahal Hill landed 232 significant strikes tonight on Glover Teixeira. 232. In Jamahal Hill's past fights, he needed four significant strikes to knock out Jimmy Crute, 6 to knock out Johnny Walker, 89 to knock out Thiago Santos, 68 to knock out OSP. He landed 232, and Glover Teixeira was still standing and still fighting back at the very end. I have no actual words for this. It doesn't make any actual sense. It blows me away. So again, Glover retiring, absolute legend. Absolute legend. I just want to get that out of the way right there. And then last thing I will say, before I'm sure we'll continue to talk about this, but the UFC light heavyweight division this is not to take away from Jamahal Hill, maybe the worst men's division right now that I can remember a division being, right? Because that's just kind of like the reality of this situation. It's just a very, very bizarre division where no one really seems to be standing out. I think Magomed Ankalaev, we all thought was going to be that guy. Maybe he still is that guy. I actually still would favor him in a fight over Jamahal Hill, and Yuri Prohaska is the best. And he's just sort of out of the equation right now. But outside of that, like, this division is in a really weird, rough shape. And it's just kind of hard to deny that, right? Like, you can give Jamahal Hill all the credit in the world while still acknowledging that this division right now is absolutely not what it used to be. And it's not, something you'd write home about. If you were to rank all the men's divisions right now, I think it would probably be last. And it's a very weird place. It's a very weird, uncertain, and shaky place. And the fact that we have gotten to this point where Jamahal Hill, again, a man who 2 months ago no one would have put in this position, and now is the champion, and with a thorough, dominating performance, like, nobody knows anything about anything in this sport. And this is just a very bizarre set of circumstances that we've reached. And 2023 is just a weird place. 2023 is just going to be all about weirdness. And if that's the case, I'm here for the weirdness. Let's just have a chaotic ass year.
Yeah, this is still like the 15th most weird thing that has happened this year is that this happened. So great performance. I mean, it's just spectacular stuff from Jamahal Hill. He looked outstanding from start to finish. But Jed, are you surprised that Glover retired tonight like the way that he did? Like, I'm not surprised he retired, but normally Glover's a man of reflection. He might think about it. We might be screaming and hollering for him, like, you know what, I think you've done enough. Take some time. And then he, like, a few months later would announce it. But just going out there and doing it tonight, I was kind of surprised that he would just do it without taking the time to reflect upon it. But I guess, what the hell do I know? Were you surprised?
I think there was a really good chance he was going to retire anyway, like, win or lose here. And I feel better about saying that. Certainly the way he did hang him up there. I also just think Glover's really smart, and, like, this is absolutely the right call. Look, you want to go out on top, and this isn't on top, but look, he fought for a title in his last ever fight, showed some of truly the most remarkable toughness I've ever seen. Like, people forget Glover was not like the most impossibly tough human being before. Anthony Rumble Johnson obliterated him in like 10 seconds or something dumb. Alexander Gustafsson tuned him up, and, like, he was not a wilting lily by any means, but he was not this. And now at 43, his chin is somehow better. He was better, and Jamahal Hill just didn't let him do shit tonight. So this is a great opportunity for him to walk away. He is absolutely correct in saying, I mean, he's coming off one of the best fights of all time and an ungodly amount of punishment, and followed that up with tonight. Not a good fight because it was mostly one-way traffic, but an ungodly amount of punishment. No better time to walk away from the sport than right now. And I think he did the right thing. His retirement, the reason I thought he was going to retire beforehand was for all the obvious reasons. And the reason I think that this was probably going to be the way it went. Maybe if he won, he might try and get it back with Yuri one time, but with a loss, because he was so quick to tee up Alex Pereira. Like, he was like, hey, Alex Pereira, I'm going to put all my energy into him, middleweight champ. He's going to come up and try and get a second belt. And that's how you should do it. Like, right there, you set him up. When you're leaving a division or retiring, you set up the next guy in your squad. So I think this is probably pre-planned. It's a great time for him to walk away. He's a Hall of Famer. I don't think there's any question that man's going to be in the Hall of Fame at this point. And 10 years ago, when he couldn't make it into the UFC because of visa issues, like, it was in no way certain that he would have been a Hall of Famer. And even after that, when he did make it in the UFC, fell short against John Jones. He might not be a Hall of Famer. Like, he's just another guy who was a good dude, fought for a belt, came up short. And now, look at what he did at the end of his career. Unbelievable run. Great for him to walk away. And incredibly classy move, because I don't want that to get lost in the shuffle either. The slight admonition to the Brazilian fans, hey, I saw what you guys did to Brandon Moreno. That's bullshit. Don't do that. Jamahal Hill's a champion. Respect him. He's going to walk out with me. Like, he's the best that this sport has to offer. It's a shame he goes out on an L, but, a moral victory, and congrats. You had a great Hall of Fame career, man.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that we're having a Hall of Fame discussion about Glover Teixeira, I think is that's like a legitimate, the fact that that's a legitimate discussion is very, I would say, surprising for someone to hear that. 4 years ago, right? 3-4 years ago. Like, not since Michael Bisping have we seen somebody really transform the story of their career in the final the final chapter of it, the very end of the career, to transform it like this. Like, it's
So
it's
so
go for it.
that's partly true, but also to your previous point about this being a rat shit division, Jan Blachowicz has done the exact same thing because both of them, like 5 years ago, when Corey Anderson is tuning Glover up and Jan is like losing middling fights to Alexander Gustafsson, if you had been like, both of those dudes are going to be champions and Hall of Famers, I'd been like, that is absolutely not accurate. But they have both kind of turned it on late in like significant ways. And maybe it means the division's bad. Probably does in a lot of ways, but the division being bad doesn't mean the division isn't fun. And frankly, light heavyweight's way more fun than it was during the peak of John Jones, if we're being honest. This is awesome. A bunch of anarchy happening every other weekend. We might have the belt might literally change hands 3 times this year. Maybe Jamahal defends it a bunch and he's leveled up. Or maybe he fights Magomed Ankalaev and loses, and then Ankalaev rematches Jan and loses, and the belt just keeps getting handed around. It would be awesome.
So that's what I would ask you, Shaheen, is what do we do with Jamal now? Like, do we just wait and hope we get this Yuri fight on the books? Hope that he just has super healing power and that the worst shoulder injury that anybody has ever seen in combat sports just magically heals in like 8 months? Or do we do Anthony Smith? Do we do Ankalaev? Like, how do we handle this? Because it could be hot potato, but there's just so many different avenues we could take now that Jamal Hill is the champion.
I mean, this is a guy who 18 months ago got his arm broken by Paul Craig, right? Like, he really hasn't fought a lot of these top guys at 205. It feels like the options are right there. In a meritocracy sense, giving him Magomed Ankalaev next would feel like it would make the most sense. I think a lot of people would pick Magomed to win that fight. I think a lot of people still believe Ankalaev is probably the number one in this division if this division does not have Yuri. So that would probably be my call. But also, I don't know that the UFC is rushing to the window to try to book Magomed in a fight of that magnitude. They don't seem to be very happy with him at this moment and really what they saw last month in that title fight. So if they end up doing Magomed versus Jan 2 for a number one contender, I feel like that would work as well. Alexander Rakic is kind of just existing out there in space too. He's going to be healed up. I don't know, not anytime soon, but within the year, he's going to be available again. And then you're right, Anthony Smith sort of just is the odd man out of all of this. He was the one that got screwed out of the Jamal Hill fight. So the options are there. I would go Ankalaev, but I wouldn't be surprised if they end up doing a Jan Ankalaev in the meantime to figure it out. But it's anybody's best guess right now. 205. So to reiterate, Jed, like 205 may not be the most star-studded, talent-rich division it's ever been right now, but it certainly is wild and a lot of fun in a way that you just can't. It's unpredictable, right? Like, you just can't tell what's going to happen next.
What a capper! What a way to end the night.
I was thinking this before when Yuri was champion. All I want in life is Alex Pereira versus Yuri Prochazka because that fight is my everything. But honestly, dude, dump Alex Pereira into this division and let's just get wacky with it. How fun! Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill is a really fun fight. The Pereira probably wins.
Can you imagine? Can you
it's
imagine
really
if Pereira
fun.
was a 2-division champion all of a sudden? Like,
it would be incredible. But like that's like I don't want to see Pereira fight Magomed Ankalaev because Ankalaev will just tackle him and that won't be interesting. But like Jamal Hill probably won't just tackle him. They'll probably just have like a really fun fight. Like that would be dope. Like let's just put Pereira in it. I don't care. Like I'll watch Pereira Izzy again, like because it's whatever. But I don't need it. I don't need Pereira Izzy. I don't even need Pereira Whitaker, even though I think that's a very compelling fight. Pereira versus a bunch of dudes who are like have pretty clearly defined weaknesses at light heavyweight, but he also has a very clearly defined weakness. It's just fun as hell, man. Let's do that.
And the beauty about Glover Teixeira is that he's still going to be around the sport for years and years to come. He's going to be an incredible coach along the way. I talked about this on the watch party. Like, I've ring announced many of MMA events in New England, and Glover Teixeira always brings like just a core of fighters, 7-8 dudes, amateurs and pros. I've never seen Coach Glover Teixeira lose a fight, ever. He's like 48-0 when I'm in the same building with him as a coach. It's ridiculous. So he's going to be around for a long time. His positive presence will be felt by many of generation coming up in the sport. And I'm sure we'll be talking a lot more about the legacy and storied career of Glover Teixeira over the next few days. No doubt about that. But that's just the beginning. There's a million other storylines for this card. And Shaheen, I'll go to you. Brandon Moreno, the undisputed UFC flyweight champion, goes out, finishes Devieson Figueiredo, doctor stoppage, gets it done in the third round. No controversy. It seemed like there might have been some eye poke, but turns out wasn't. Good stoppage. I thought Moreno won all 3 rounds. The other 3 judges did not agree with me, but Moreno was up 2-1 heading into what would have been in the 4th round, and one judge gave Brandon Moreno 10-8 third. So great performance from Brandon Moreno. Is this it? Did he cap the rivalry off? Did we close the book on the Brandon Moreno, Devieson Figueiredo incredible story that has been written over the last couple of years?
I think so, right? It feels like it's played its course. Like we have gotten where we needed to with it. Somebody finally has an advantage in it. It 1-1-1 was a weird place to be after 3, but now 2-1-1. Brandon, the 2 he won were fairly decisive. I would say that Brandon is certainly the guy who comes out of this, and it feels like we can move on. But just the fact that we have sort of entertained this over the course of the length that this series has gone since December 2020 is frankly just crazy, right? This is we speak about how unpredictable MMA is, how quickly things can change. If you would have told us at the beginning of December 2020 that these 2 guys would go on to create one of the most memorable, one of the most fun rivalries that would stretch 4 fights basically in a row. For Devieson, it was 4 in a row. Brandon may have had 1 in between with the Kai Kara France, but more or less 4 in a row. Like I don't think anybody would have understood what you were telling them. That is such a crazy way that this is all played out. And I heard you guys talk about this on the preview show, and I've been thinking about it ever since. So is this the most fun rivalry in UFC history, just in terms of in-cage action alone, right? Just only pure in-cage action, not the outside circumstances, not the dramatics, not the characters, et cetera, just the actual fights themselves that we saw once these 2 guys were inside the cage. And I've been racking my brain. I kind of even threw it out on social media. I think it's either number 1 or number 2. Just with what we have seen over these 4 fights. Almost all of them were so much fun. I think tonight was trending that way too. I was really enjoying this fight until it ended when it did. I think Frankie Edgar versus Gray Maynard is really the only series that you could really throw up against it. That was sort of rival the in-cage action. And that to me might still be the number 1, if only because the last 2 fights of that were just utterly bananas and 2 of the greatest fights, we had ever seen in that division. I think that's probably still number 1, but for this to reach number 2, even just in terms of, again, greatest in-cage rivalries, that is a crazy place for us to get to with Brandon Moreno and Devieson Figueiredo, 2 guys that, sort of came out of nowhere, both of them, and just took over this division. And flyweight now is more fun to me than it's ever been. Flyweight now is in a healthier place than it's ever been. And it's really because of these 2 gentlemen and the work that they have done over the last 2 years. Like, these 2 guys have resuscitated this division and left it in a place that is incredibly compelling. We have, the Pantoja fight, which I assume will be next for Brandon Moreno, is a banger. I've been waiting for Pantoja to get his opportunity. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then you just have a lot of up-and-comers coming up down the pipe, right? Muhammad Mokaev, Amir Al-Bazi, the Manal Comp. Like, there is just a lot of really cool, interesting, unique talent at 125 right now. And it just feels so refreshing to have this division resuscitated and just in a really healthy place, because obviously it was not going to exist not too long ago. So yeah, I think this is probably the end of the Moreno Figueiredo saga. Justifiably so. It seems like Devieson wants to go to 135, which there's tons of matchmaking options for him over there. But it was a lot of fun while we had it, man. This was a fun ride these 2 guys took us on.
Completely agree. Just and everything, just to do it back in Brazil and have the chapter closed there. It just made so much sense. But what did you think, Jed? You were pretty confident in Moreno. I was pretty confident in Moreno as well. I just felt like, and we talked about the numbers game and how Father Time just has an incredible win-loss record, especially in the lower divisions. And it's just a matter of time before it just started to catch up with Figueiredo. Dude is still so talented. He had moments in the fight for certain, but I just feel like Moreno is younger. He's getting better. His game continues to evolve, and he went out there and looked pretty damn good tonight. So what was your biggest takeaway of the number one flyweight in the world right now?
So it looked a lot like I thought it would. Maybe not tactically. Moreno did some really interesting things in there that I thought were really, really smart. I thought he was going to win comfortably just because I think Figuereido has been slightly on the athletic decline since their second fight. I know he says his own things about not really having a great camp and not being prepared for that one. But the third fight, Figuereido won. Win is controversial. I think a number of people scored it. I don't like that was very close, and he won that with preparation, almost like entirely. He brought new looks, and Moreno was not prepared. It was not a huge in cage adjustment from Figueredo in that to be like, "Ooh, this is happening." He had a strategy, and that's a credit. People think that that's talking shit. No, because that's part of being an elite fighter is knowing where you're limited, knowing where you need to do something different, and addressing that problem effectively. My issue coming into this fight was you can only do that once. Like you only have one bullet in that gun, and once that's done, then we're back to okay. Well, Moreno now knows about it, so you got to either come up with a new wrinkle. It's really hard to do that when you're older and you're losing your fastball. And I do think we saw pretty clearly to me that Figueiredo is still a plus athlete, still a very good athlete. He's a little bit slower, and that the margins are so important at this point. I think we're probably not getting a fifth one, but I'm not 100% that we're not getting a fifth one because I know he doesn't like to make the weight cut, and frankly, it doesn't feel like he should even be able to make the weight cut, but he does, and credit to him, he pulls it off and looked good on the scale. He looked awful earlier in the week, looked good on the scale. I think he's going to have a hard time at bantamweight. I do not think that division is going to be very good for him. Now, if he gets to go up to bantamweight and he gets to fight Cody Garbrandt, that division could be pretty good for him. But if he's trying to actually make a run, or if they're giving him the bump and saying, hey, you're moving up, we're going to throw you right into a top 5, put you in line for a title fight here, that top 5 is awful for him. Sean O'Malley, Piotr Jan, Murad Valashvili, Marlon Vera, Corey Sandhagen. That's the UFC's top 5, not counting champion Aljamain Sterling. Those are, all of them are horrifically bad matchups for Devieson. So I think we could see him go up, recognize very quickly that that's actually not where he's going to make his hay, and come back down. And if he does, then we can get a fifth. Because yes, Moreno won this. I thought Moreno was on his way to winning. I thought the punch was legal. This is a clean win, but it still has that aura, like it didn't feel all the way complete, even if that is a clean punch, etc. It lacks the stamp, the definitiveness, and we want to let Moreno go fight, Ali Pants, but if he beats Pantoja, maybe gets another one, Figueiredo takes one at bantamweight, says, comes back down. We could get a fifth one maybe next year, and I'd still watch the hell out of it because the fights have all been compelling.
But now we get Alex Pants. We get the fight we wanted. And I loved what John Anik said, because Megan O'Leary told a little story after the fight about how they had a little run-in, and we've seen video on it as well. And Brandon Moreno thought it was a little bit of quote-unquote aggressive. And Pantoja was basically saying, I'm ready. We could do it in a month, do it in 2 months, whatever. And Brandon Moreno's response was, hey, tomorrow you could start talking trash, but tonight just let me have this one. All right. And I thought that was just the best.
That's a phenomenal thing. But also, if you're going to talk shit, do it where a camera is, bro. You don't do this backstage where they just tell us about it at the presser. That's Bush League fight promotion. I'm not like a huge fan of the move anyway, but if you're doing it to stake your title claim, to build hype, etc., know your role, know your audience. Like, hop the cage and talk shit to him in the cage or whatever, or just do it at the presser. Like, just come on, man. This isn't hard. That shouldn't be hard to figure that one out.
And then Devieson Figueiredo going up to 135. God, man, so many fun fights for him up there. So, a lot to be excited about. But congratulations to Brandon Moreno.
Him versus Marlon Vera would be really, really fun.
I'm in.
That's like,
I'm in.
Yeah,
that's a really fun one. And Cody Garbrandt would just make my soul sing. So I'm also down on that fight. But like, I don't need to watch him fight Rob Font or whatever. Like, that's just not a fight that I care about. So,
yeah,
but him versus Marlon Vera is sick.
You are the president of the Devieson Figueiredo versus Cody Garbrandt fan club. You are the president and a client, my friend.
It was the best. When that fight was going to happen, God, I was so excited. Like, I don't think it'll ever happen anymore, but man, they should book it. That'd be fun.
Yes. Gilbert Burns, great win. Goes out, smushes Neil Magny, does exactly what he needs to do. He calls out Colby Covington. Good on him. Jessica Andrade, good grief, man. And then, Jed, I know we talked about this a little bit earlier. Lauren Murphy took a beating, and she is as tough as it gets. Tougher than shoe leather, tougher than a $2 steak, whatever cliche comparison you want to throw out there. But golly, man, you got to stop it. Like, that was bad. That was not going to get any better. Like, in hindsight, I kind of wish they stopped the Glover fight, but he went out there and took him down and mounted him. And in hindsight, we're like, okay, sure. But this just was not going to get any better for Lauren Murphy. It just clearly was not her night. And Jessica just tuned her up. It was tough to watch, man. Great performance from Andrade, but I think I don't know if it's a bigger takeaway. It might be, is that Lauren just took way too much damage in this fight. And you could blame the corner. You could certainly blame the ref. This should not have gone a full 15 minutes. You should not have cashed an over 2.5 ticket.
Super shouldn't have.
Absolutely should not have.
Yeah, we were talking about it off air. Objectively, the Glover fight should have been stopped before the 5th round. Like, if the idea is to protect fighters from themselves and to ensure a long and healthy life insofar as can be in this sport, Glover shouldn't have been allowed in the 5th. In hindsight, I am a very slightly more accepting of it because it felt like they knew that this was the last round of his career and give him a chance to win the belt, and he will take no more damage ever after this. It still shouldn't have happened, but I'm a little more willing to accept that. And there is at least, even as ridiculous or as hopeful as it would have been, there was a path forward. Glover could have maybe done something with a takedown. Ultimately got it, wasn't able to do it, but you could still see how he could turn a win out of this. That was not the case from the minute the first round started for Lauren Murphy. It was apparent very early. And at the end of the first round, at the point when Jessica Andrade realized in that fight, I have nothing to fear from this woman. I do not have to give her an ounce of respect. I can just put myself in the line of fire, and I might take 1 or 2. It will not matter. And what I am returning with is so much more than she can bear. And that happened around like the 3-minute mark of the first. And that's when Andrade just got the engine moving and just really started putting it on her. And I hit our group Slack and was like, they should stop this fight 2 minutes into the second round. If Lauren Murphy can't make something happen here, can't get a takedown, can't substantively change it, and instead they let it go. I pulled up the stats because I want this to be clear. I think that fight should have been stopped at the exact halfway.
Stats are bad.
The fight should have been stopped at the halfway mark. Even if you want to really give Lauren Murphy the benefit of the doubt, Jessica Andrade landed 95 significant strikes in the 3rd round. That was after, by any reasonable measure, Andrade was up 20-16, and Murphy, who is not a finisher, had zero path to actually win this fight. That is 95 shots. I'm not pulling on the exact head body, so let's try and figure this out. It's just a shitload of brain damage that she took, pushing 40 for no discernible reason. I don't actually think the referee should have stopped the fight. I have pretty clear lines on how I think this should work. The referee should protect the fighter in the immediacy of, hey, this fighter cannot continue because they are not intelligently defending themselves. Lauren Murphy was tough and given what she could out there and still competing. I do not think it is on the referee. I don't remember who that was. Was that Osiris Maya maybe? I don't think it was on him. I think that's on the corner. The corner is the one who should protect their fighter when it's not their day. And and it was a tough night in that regard, man. Really, really tough.
So let me throw more on to the stat pile because I have a couple of more stats here. Our pal Aaron Bronstetter tweeted this one out. Lauren Murphy absorbed 161 significant head strikes tonight. By comparison, you look at the gold standard for UFC female violence, which is Weili Zhang versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk 1. They absorbed a combined 192 head strikes over 5 rounds, 161 to 192,
Jesus.
split amongst 2 people.
Wow.
Let's go farther. Andrade landed 231 just general significant strikes in 15 minutes. 231 tonight. That's an average of 15.4 per minute. That's, if you even go down more, that's basically four strikes per second or per minute, basically. Wait, no, I'm sorry. Every 3.89 seconds, Lauren Murphy absorbed a significant strike. Sorry, I messed that one up. But every 3.8 seconds, she absorbed a significant strike. She went 0-15 on takedowns. There was never at any point a moment where it appeared any of this was in danger of changing. Like, this is, if this was a boxing fight, this fight would have been stopped by somebody 100% of the time, whether it was the corner or the referee or somebody. And I agree with you, Jed. At no point did it feel like this was on the referee to stop it. This was a corner decision, and they didn't do right by Lauren Murphy tonight. She took way too much extra damage that she did not need to take.
78 head strikes in the final round. She ate 78 head strikes. And like, to your point about the JJ Zhang fight, I mean, Weili Zhang is a force. Joanna Jędrzejczyk hits hard, but she is not serving with the same power that 125 Jessica Andrade is. Like, that'll ruin your career, just straight up. Like, I don't know what Lauren Murphy's career was going to look like over the next couple of years. She's getting older anyway, but like, it's done. Whatever run she had, it's just not going to happen because fighters don't really come back from stuff like that. There's no reason for it, and it's just shameful, man. This is not hard, and you're not doing your job. You're just not.
And credit to Jessica Andrade too, because the performance was great, but the game plan early of just sledgehammering her Lauren Murphy's legs.
Such a monster.
Lauren was not prepared for that, and I think that caught a lot of people off guard, even like pundits who broke the fight down and thought about how it could go. I don't think a lot of people thought she would just be thundering leg kicks the way that she did. And like 45 seconds into the fight, we were like, oh boy, Lauren's already compromised. That leg is a mess. And Jessica just took advantage of it. So spectacular performance. She looked great and deserves a ton of credit. Great win
real quick before we move on.
Sure.
Like, I feel like we underappreciate Jessica Andrade to like a pretty significant degree. Like she is just generally throughout the MMA community underappreciated for what she gives us. Like, this woman is the definition of why pound for pound rankings exist. She is the definition of pound for pound excellence. She's basically a top contender in 2 different divisions right now, and she just doesn't even care. Like, you just give her anybody and she's gonna come try to destroy that person, right? Like, it is crazy the wrecking ball that she brings into every fight. Like, she's underappreciated, and we're gonna miss her when she's gone, because she is maybe the most exciting fighter in the UFC right now outside of Justin Gaethje. Like, it's a consistent thing at this point, and that we've seen it over the years. It's just crazy.
Dude, this was her first decision win in 5 years since Tisha Torres. She landed 230 strikes in it. Like, that's everything else has been finishes, or she put a double century mark on Lauren Murphy. This woman is nuts. All I want, I mentioned earlier, my heart would sing if we got Pereira versus Yuri. I think that's my number 1 fight in my wish list. But 1B, number 2, we have to have Andrade Zhang 2. That
I agree. 100%.
There is nothing else that matters. I do not care that Rose has 2 wins over Zhang. Rose never gets to fight for the belt again after the Esparza monstrosity. Andrade Zhang 2 in Brazil, and then God willing, Andrade wins it, and we can have a 3rd fight between those 2, because that is just. You talking about the Moreno Figgy fight being like maybe the best rivalry in cage rivalry. If we can be lucky enough to get 3 fights out of those women, whew, That'd just be the best.
All right.
And
Is it time to turn this into the Jailton Almeida hour? It feels like it's time to turn this into the Jailton Almeida hour.
we're gonna get there. I
right,
feel like
all
we have a perfect segue. We get a perfect segue to that. Let's talk the bonuses. I thought for sure this is going to be a 4 performance bonus kind of a night. Did not happen. We only got 2 of them. And fight of the night was the main event between Jamal Hill and Glover Teixeira. But one of the bonuses goes to Jailton Almeida. How about that, Shaun
What a
Al-Shatti?
transition. What a
How
transition.
about that? I mean, this guy, he's not bad, right? Like, I feel like, give him a couple
Not
of
bad.
years, a little more seasoning. This guy might be a top 15 guy or something. This dude's a friggin' terror, Shaun Al-Shatti. Go, wax poetically.
Oh my God, how much fun is Jailton Almeida? I feel like us at MMA Fighting have sort of adopted him as our project fighter for some reason. Like everyone on the staff just absolutely adores Jailton Almeida. This dude is such a force, man. Like I was already all in before tonight. Like I was already kind of on that bandwagon. I am somehow even more all in now. Like I am, whatever stock is still available. Like I'm just buying up all your stock. Like I'm buying up every ounce of Jailton Almeida stock at this point. This man was hurling around a 260-pound man at 230 pounds tonight. Like it was the easiest thing in the world. Like he was throwing Shamil around like I would throw, my newborn baby around or like carry him around. Like it's just it was crazy the degree to which he was kind of just doing whatever he wanted in there. And that's just been a consistent pattern now that we have seen from this man over 4 UFC fights. And it feels like I just don't actually know what the ceiling is now for Jailton Almeida, because I had legitimate questions, and I feel like they're still out there of, is the size going to be a problem at heavyweight, right? Because this is someone who came in as a light heavyweight and kind of just started doing these catch weights, and eventually now he just seems to be a heavyweight, and we don't really know if he's really a heavyweight. He's 230. He's very small for heavyweight. He's basically Fedor Emelianenko size. I don't know if that can work in today's high-level heavyweight MMA. There might be a ceiling on this when you reach someone like a Curtis Blades or a Ciorgan or just these absolute behemoths at the top of the division. I'm ready to see it, man. I'm ready to see it because Jailton Almeida, I feel so confident, is going to be a UFC champion at some point, whether it's at heavyweight or 205. I still don't know in that regard. If you put him up against Jamal Hill right now, I think a lot of people are going to be really split and torn on who they would actually pick in that fight. That's a competitive fight to me. Is the future at heavyweight? I'm not sure, but tonight sold me on the idea that that's actually a possibility now, because I still felt like coming in tonight, he was probably a light heavyweight. If you can just throw around a 260-pound guy like it's the easiest thing in the world, I don't actually know anymore then. Because I'm so in on Jailton Almeida. Like it's going to be really fun to watch however this plays out. But man, tonight was fun. Tonight was fun, right? Like this is a big giant Damian Maia who's got wrestling and ground and pound, and I'm very much here for it.
It was fun for everybody except for GC, who bet that fight, Jailton Almeida would finish the fight. It would go under a round and a half.
I tried to tell him. He didn't listen. The most electric bet in all of combat sports, Mike, heavyweight overs. And let me tell you, it was friggin' electric. I am desperately begging Shamil to cheat and just survive all the bad positions. And then at the end, when it's like he's giving up the back, but then for what Jailton just like takes a breather, he just like holds him for a minute. I was like, yes, take all the time in the world. You can finish this 20 seconds later, but count down, baby. It was awesome. It was the most fun I had tonight.
And then the other electric bet that you made that cashed was a parlay, the Bonfim Brothers parlay, and the other performance award. They both brothers could have got one, but Ishmael gets one with one of the scariest knockouts I've ever seen. That was
so sick.
Brutal. That was brutal. Terrence McKinney went down in a heap. I thought he was like seriously injured the way he went down. It was scary. He wasn't moving. Everything about that was nasty. He looked fantastic, Ismail Bonfim. And that double flying knee, whatever you want to call it, was just so sick, Jed. It was just so sick. What did you think watching that knockout? That those knees land and watch Terrence McKinney just not trying to be disrespectful, but like he just timbered. He went timber. It was so scary.
I I've been watching this sport way too long. Stuff like that really scares me. The Lauren Murphy stuff like makes me feel bad, like prolonged beatings. Whereas like I just have the visceral reaction of, oh shit, he did that thing. That was insane. Uh, I love the Bonfim brothers. I said it on No Bets Bar coming in. The Bonfim parlay is mostly a gimmick because I love a gimmick, and it was a good one. But it was also like they're both talented dudes. Like they are both legitimate prospects. His brother actually is, I think, the better one in part because welterweight is a worse division than bantam or lightweight. But like, and he's undefeated, etc. But they're both good. But Ishmael looked so good. I want to rewatch it because I was a little distracted. But honestly, one of my big thoughts was my biggest overarching takeaway is that lightweight fucking rules, man. I know that we have a back and forth with some members of the site who think it's bantamweight. I'm here to tell. Look, Terrence McKinney was exceptionally close to knocking out Drew Dober in violent fashion. Drew Dober, who I think is probably going to be ranked, or certainly a Favre in our rankings, undeniably a top 20-ish dude, and Terrence McKinney was moments away from ethering that dude. And he just got slabbed by a guy making his debut. The lightweight, the top 75 dudes at this weight class can kill anybody on any given night. And if you're a top 15 dude at this weight class, it means you're just one of the very best fighters in the whole damn world. And that was my big takeaway. And I can't wait to watch what these dudes do next because like that was not the fight or performance I was anticipating. And so for him to so comprehensively beat Terrence McKinney's ass, who is a flawed but good fighter, this kid really has a lot going for him. And so does his brother, man. Brother also. Munir Lazez is no joke. Dude's a very, very solid fighter.
That's the thing. Like both the dudes they beat tonight are like very legitimate, right? Like Terrence McKinney and Munir Lazez are both like talents that I'm immensely respectful of.
We were talking in the chat, like the siblings in there, and the Basharats feel like the closest thing because they debuted last year, not on the same card. These dudes are like maybe Javid Basharat's going to have a higher ceiling overall. I think these dudes are far more impressive at this stage of their careers than the Basharats were when they came into the UFC. Like far more. I'm much more interested in what they do moving forward.
I mean, it might be it's probably is, right? Like the greatest single night for a debuting household in UFC history, right?
It's hard to imagine.
What the hell did anything these dudes are the king of Rio for the rest of the weekend? Like I can't imagine what mom and dad are feeling watching this. Like that was unbelievable. We're going to be talking about that knee knockout at the end of 2023. Like that is going to be on people's knockout of the year list.
There's 1,000% a KO of the year nominee.
Yep.
Can I also shout out the biggest robbery of the evening, which
I know what you're gonna say.
Look, this ain't gonna be a KO of the year nominee, but it was definitively the second best performance of the night. I don't care that Jailton Almeida ran over a dude who has lost 3 in a row before he lost to Jailton, and was also a minus 900 favorite. That was a very anticipated performance. Good, but anticipated. Bruno Ferreira just ethering RoboCop. How does that not get a performance bonus? How? Somebody explain to me how that man did not get a performance bonus for that KO.
I have no answer for you. It was just such a sneaky left hand. It was just a little sneaky. RoboCop just went out, eyes back of the head, dunzo.
We've literally never seen that. We've seen Shamil Abdurakhimov get his ass beat. In fact, it's become a common occurrence. We have seen RoboCop take monstrous shots, but the replay of just like watching his neck just like move, and that is an unbelievable, and it was a beautiful setup. Switch step, gets the outside angle, left hand down the pipe. How is that not a bonus? That is such a robbery. Such a robbery.
Well, maybe they'll take care of him. Hopefully they do. We'll see what
happens. I was pretty surprised we didn't get the, hey, we're back in Brazil. Everybody who got a finish gets a bonus. But that just feels wrong for him is all I'm saying, man. Feels really wrong. Because honestly, Gilbert Burns' submission is better than Jailton Almeida's performance. I don't think that's controversial
I mean,
at all to say that Gilbert Burns'
oh,
performance is
I
better
mean,
than Jailton's.
no, that was a flawless victory. Like that was
Yeah.
he
Literally
did
0
nothing.
strikes.
Yeah,
Literally 0
he
strikes.
accomplished 0 in that fight.
Amazing. And one more thing I want to say before we go to the peeps is, and I don't know how you guys felt about this, but I felt it like doing the watch party at GC and talking with everybody. As crazy as this year has been in the sport and even outside of it, tonight felt normal. Like it just felt normal. Like watching a pay-per-view, chaos is happening. Yes, were there weird things that happened along the way? Sure, but I don't like this felt like the most normal day of watching MMA or like covering the sport of the year so far. And I know that's weird to say on January 21st, but considering how the first 3 weeks of this year has been in the sport, it was kind of cool to just forget about all the bullshit and just watch these fighters go out there and do what they do best. It just felt like a normal night watching fights. We're not talking about anything else. We're not talking about all the other drama that we saw throughout the year. It just felt normal again. You know what I mean? And it was a refreshing feeling. And I don't know if you guys felt the same way.
Yeah. I mean, it was a really good night of fights. It's the most fun I've had in a really long time watching fights but I would have thought that coming in. Does this card look good on paper? 15 fights is a lot, but I mean, our last 2 fight nights were very tough hangs, both on paper and in actuality. And then the last pay-per-view was also a super tough hang, particularly given we had a draw and the most interesting part of the last pay-per-view was them making this main event like that night of it. So it's been like a full, I'm trying to think the last time I was like geared up for a fight night and it was good. And 280, 81 maybe? That was a decent one. I think it probably had to be that. So, I mean, I had a great time and I enjoyed that. Nitpicks here and there everywhere, but this was the best card the UFC's put on in at least a month.
Yep.
Yeah. I heard that.
All right, let's take a couple questions. I'm telling you, I don't know how much longer my voice is going to be able to keep talking, but we're going to try to barrel through this. So we'll take a few questions. If we could.
One fallout from this that we haven't mentioned.
Yeah.
Terrence McKinney versus Paddy Pimblett suddenly makes a little bit more sense, does it not? I'm just saying. Throwing it out there into the world. Feels like it's a little more possible.
Well,
there we go, Casey. There we go.
Paddy Pimblett versus Thiago Moises doesn't make any sense at all, so I guess this one is the better choice.
No. It's a terrible idea.
Dude, also, just shouts to Thiago Moises, who's like a top 25 lightweight, and just will never get flowers because of how good the stupid division is.
He's so good. So fun to watch.
Just dominated. Not fine, but not a great fighter. This dude rules.
Yeah. I don't think his defensive savvy on the feet is equally as impressive as his opportunistic offense on the ground. It's just so fun to watch him strike. Like, you can't hit him. It looks like he's being hit. But then if you actually watch the fights, they don't touch him. Nobody touches this man. It's insane. It's crazy. Takaro Man 91. Who most likely to maintain their title? Hill or Moreno? Jed, your face says it all.
Come on, man. Like, maybe Hill is leveled up in a way and he's about to go on a run. I will not write that possibility off because he looked so good tonight. Brandon Moreno has, at worst, beaten the second best flyweight in the world comprehensively twice and very possibly did it 3 out of 4 times while also beating Kai Kara France's ass in the between time. So, look, I think that fight is going to rule. I know Pantoja has a couple wins over Moreno. That was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. I'll feel very confident picking Moreno. That he was my beginning of the year pick to retain his title. Shaheen, just so we're clear in our things, this is my number 1 draft pick, looking okay at the moment. So I'm taking Moreno. I think it is as simple as I think he's the best flyweight in the world. I don't know how long that will last, but I think we've got at least a year or two of him still improving, still moving up. And I like his chances against anybody in the world at this weight class.
Yeah. I mean, the answer is Moreno's, if only because once Yuri comes back, I think we're all picking Yuri to take that title back at light heavyweight.
Yeah, the Pantoja fight's gonna be a tough one, no doubt about it. But if Moreno beats Pantoja, he's gonna be the champion for a long time. And I know there's good fighters like Nicolau, we got Manel Kape coming up, and we got Makhachev coming up. But I feel like by the time Makhachev gets to a title fight, it's gonna be like 2024, like mid 2024, because they're just gonna slowly build him up, and he'll get there, and he'll get there. And probably win the belt.
He's got work to do.
There,
but yeah, he's got work to do. And, if for no other reason, Moreno doesn't have to fight Jailton Almeida at some point. So that seems likely that he gets to retain a belt since he doesn't have to fight Jailton Almeida.
It's true.
Here we go. Silly question, but I think it's fun to talk about.
Would Jamal Hill versus John Jones even be competitive?
I'd be interested. I actually think that can be.
Yeah.
I mean, today, right now, if John was 205 and able to make it, I think it would be competitive. But I also have had real questions about where John's at in his career for a while now. So that's not anything new from me. I mean, we just haven't seen John Jones look like John Jones for several years.
My hottest take in the entire history of my MMA taking is that John Jones is pretty heavily overrated. That he should be as good as everyone thinks he is, but he never took MMA serious to any degree. And so his performances are viewed in a very rose-colored light. I think he probably beats Jamal Hill, but there are absolutely avenues where Jamal Hill gives him problems.
Yep.
John Jones is not very good at striking. Like He's very good if he did good things. He wants to fight in the ways that are the least effective for him. And it is why people like Dominic Reyes, and as we talked offline, that win has aged extremely poorly. Anthony Smith, Thiago Santos with no knees were able to be competitive because John doesn't want to do the things he's best at for whatever reason that is. So I think that fight's competitive. I would ultimately favor John Jones because his ceiling is the highest of anyone that's ever competed in the sport.
I know we've been kind of avoiding the topic a little bit because there were so many storylines, but we need to mention him.
Set up some theoretical. I didn't want to do this, but we're here.
No, this is easy. This is easy, and I'm super in on this.
What are you talking about? I didn't see that.
No, I feel like AK when he's talking about Ryan Hall. When talking about this right now, set up some theoretical Shogun retirement opponents. Why do we always have to see our heroes beaten to a pulp in their final matchups? I actually didn't hate this one. I thought this was about as good as it could. What?
Why did you hate this one?
I didn't hate it.
I hated it.
I hated the ending and the fallout. But on paper, this was about as good as it could get for him. This is a winnable fight against a guy that a decent, even like a 70% Shogun should have beaten. It just wasn't there, man. Like
no.
Jailton, what else would you have done?
Look, there are two. There are only.
I would have brought. That's
it.
I would have brought someone. Hold on. I would have brought someone Shogun's age. I would have brought Lyoto Machida back in for one more fight or something. Someone Shogun's age. Like, I don't need Shogun fighting a 22-year-old or a 28-year-old or a 31-year-old or whatever, however old this gentleman was. I don't know offhand. You bring in a legend. You bring in a fellow legend. Yeah, you bring in a fellow legend, and then one of them gets the good moment.
Look, Shaheen is correct. That's what you should do. There are two ways to handle this, and my issue with this is the exact same thing I have with Frankie Edgar. And this is probably really inside baseball. Most people won't care, and that's fine. I at least understand the concept of sending him out on his back. All right, let's get whatever juice we can. trying to book him against a winnable mid-tier fight creates the worst possible outcome, which is him losing to somebody who doesn't matter and will get nothing from it. Now, if he does win, okay, but you're just gambling something stupidly. You either book him against some dude who's going to beat the shit out of him, like Frankie Edgar should have fought Adrian Yanez, or like some dude who's going to get some kind of a bump out of it and be helpful, and not a guy. Because Gilbert Teixeira is just a dude. Like, this is going to matter nothing to his career because he's never going to be like elite and good. So it's a waste. Or the actual reasonable thing is you should have signed Lyoto Machida. He's a free agent. You sign him for one fight. They both fight.
In Brazil.
They fall. There's a trilogy. They do it in Brazil. It can be a walk away for both of them. But you just do that. And then, as Shane said, one guy gets the win. It's the moment. Honestly, those are more competitive and fun fights. We saw Shogun fight like Little Nog 3 times, 2 times in the UFC when they were both pretty washed, and those fights were fun and interesting. This was never going to be fun, even if we got the good outcome from it. It was it's just such a narrow line to walk, and I really don't know why the UFC can't figure that out, or if they know and just don't care, and this is how it broke. But that seems very weird to me. Like, all right, we'll just do this. I don't get this one. I never have.
No, I get it. If I had my druthers and we lived in this wonderful world that you speak of that doesn't exist, I would have done the exact same thing. But we don't live in that world. We live in the UFC's world where they're not going to bring Lyoto back for a fight.
Give him Khalil Roundtree or somebody.
For a fight. Khalil Roundtree?
He would kill him. But that's fine. At least you're getting something out of it.
He got killed anyway. Let's kill him with a name.
That's exactly right. If you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly. If you're going to send this dude out in a bad way, send him out in a freaking cannon, shot to the moon.
Jailton Almeida.
Not just some.
That's fine. Jailton, fine. For as bad as the Hamzat Nate Diaz fight is, that at least made sense, even if it felt dirty.
Because this doesn't even make sense for the promotion.
It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Like the way watching this felt so flaccid, right? In a weird way where it's just like, what are we even watching? Like we're watching some Contender Series guy who I agree is probably not going to end up mattering in a real title conversation ever. Dance and taunt over like a fallen, really weird ending Shogun retirement fight. Like, and then have no sense of the room or reading the room or anything.
Read the room, bro. Read the room.
I think that's going to age well, frankly. I think that's going to be incredibly stupidly funny. Like, in the moment, it's like, dude, just be smarter. I can totally see me being like, it's hilarious how dumb he was.
He did at the press conference, too, apparently.
Just incredibly dumb.
Like, credit to Uriah Hall when he kicked out Anderson Silva in the UFC. He didn't do a backflip after he won. Or
he was like in tears, basically. Like,
Chris Gutierrez. As soon as he knocked out Frankie Edgar, he was like, "My fault,"
Dude, Jamal Hill tonight,
Jamal Hill.
I have many bad things to say about Jamal Hill, but that's
handled the
not. But his thing to Glover Teixeira, that dude's a legend. That dude's tough as shit. I can't believe the shots he was taking. Give him his props. Like, that's how you handle it. Gilbert Burns is awesome in the fact that he just couldn't see it at all. Like, didn't even sort of register that he was the bad guy, or that it's like, no, I'm the future. I'm so good. Look at me. I love that level of self-awareness.
Dude's from Kiev in a war-torn country, and this is like the best moment of his life. And it's just weird and tone deaf. And I think I get where you're coming from. I'm wrong. Like, I admit that I'm wrong about this. Stubborn Mike is admitting that he's wrong. And it's only because I thought for sure Shogun. I was like, okay, this is a winnable fight for Shogun, and I actually felt good about it on paper. I was like, he's gonna go in there, like, he might lose his like squeaky decision or something, but like at least he's not gonna get trucked. And then it turned out he got trucked, and I was like, oh man. I don't know if Shogun was beating anybody tonight, unfortunately.
Oh, probably not.
No.
But again,
I don't know what's Jared Vanderrod doing. We kept rolling him out there forever. Why not? Like, I think Shogun could have had a shot against Jared.
Who was that heavyweight who dropped down to light heavyweight? Harry Huntsucker? Is that the guy?
Oh yeah.
Bring back Huntsucker.
There we go. Come on.
Yeah. I mean,
Jonathan Goulet
Chase Sherman's still in the UFC with like 30 losses in a row. Why isn't Harry Hunsucker?
Justin
still around?
Ledet, bring back Justin Ledet. Perfect.
I think maybe for our last question, I don't believe we even mentioned him on the show, and I think it deserves some mentioning.
Who has more wacky endings to their fights than Johnny Walker? The violent nonsense both ways most of the time. Hey, listen, perfect opponent, right? That was like my biggest takeaway. But what did you think of Johnny Walker's performance, Sean? Like, it was disciplined, patient, but in the end, we got kind of the Johnny Walker we were hoping to see tonight.
Yeah, I'm way here on Chaos Johnny Walker. Like, Chaos Johnny Walker is so much more fun than Composure Johnny Walker. Like, no one wants to see that. Like, maybe, and that's not even like increasing your stock any if you're fighting fights like that. Like, everyone was hating Johnny Walker when he was fighting like that, and he was also losing fights. Like, that's the worst of both outcomes. Like, you're fun when you're just bringing the chaos, and he brought some chaos tonight. And I am very happy that these last two fights we have gotten this version of Johnny Walker back, because for a long time, or not for a long time, but for a while, it was looking like he was gone forever, and John Kavanaugh just kind of ruined this guy. And that was a really big bummer.
Right, he does.
Because he even brought the worm back out tonight. Like, the ball's on the guy.
He knows he slowed it down. He's like, okay,
yeah.
He didn't just jump into it. He's a mature Johnny Walker. And
Yeah.
you talked about, I don't want to see this composed Johnny Walker, but we actually did see a composed Johnny Walker. Remember, like, the first 90 seconds of that fight was just kind of fainting. It was just like, I was like, ooh, are we going to get this in 15 minutes? But then Paul Craig got
And he let it go. And he let it go.
And then that Johnny Walker that we love kind of came out. But this was, it's hard to say because, the fight ended so crazy, but this looked like the Johnny Walker that we had the championship, expectations from, I mean, I'm not saying he beats Jamal Hill next week, but this is the guy we go, ooh, I want to see him fight on high up on the card, not, oh God, they gave him another main event. So I don't know. I was excited, and the way he just chilled on top of the cage, the guy just gets it.
It's so good. He's such a showman. He's so good at that.
He is definitely.
What are you
a showman.
chuckling at over there?
Yeah.
Us as people and fans. Because look, he is definitely a showman. You can't take that away. And this was incredibly fun. But look, the truth is pretty obvious in front of us. Johnny Walker didn't change or get. Johnny Walker looks really fun and good against people who aren't very good.
The guy that broke the arm of the champion?
Like 18 months ago.
Paul Craig, okay, maybe I should rephrase that. Against people who are not good defensively and sometimes do dumb shit. Because look at the run he was on. I've got it pulled up. That we were like, this dude's a thing. Cleo Roundtree Jr. That's aged pretty well, and that KO was savage. The aforementioned Justin Ledet, who Shaheen just threw out as a possible can for Shogun to crush in his retirement fight. Misha Serkinov, God love Misha Serkinov, but he's lost like 12 in a row or something. And then he fought Corey Anderson and lost because Corey Anderson's good. He then fought Nikita Krylov and lost because Nikita Krylov is at least decent. He beat Ryan Spann, who, as we were talking about off air, doesn't train MMA until 6 months ago. Also defensively porous. And then he lost to Thiago Santos, one of the worst fights of all time, and Jamal Hill, who is apparently good, as we learned tonight. And then his two good wins now, Ion Cutelaba, who is a chaos merchant in his own right, and then Paul Craig, who's Paul Craig. So, I think it's pretty clear. If Johnny Walker goes in and his next fight is against, Anthony Smith, he's probably going to lose. But if his next fight is against Jimmy Crute, he's got a pretty good shot. And it'll be fun because he's incredibly fun. He is, to answer Efrain Gonzalez's question, he's like a high-end Nico Price. He's like a good Nico Price. Or maybe he's just the exact same fighter as Nico Price, but light heavyweight is a much worse division than welterweight. Fair. And that's cool. That's Andy's a showman, good. So it's cool. I'm not here to talk shit on Johnny Walker. Maybe the old Johnny Walker's back. I don't know. I think if he fights Corey Anderson again, he's going to get thumped.
Well, he can't handle those Bellator 205ers. We know that.
Might be the best 205ers in the world. Who knows at this juncture?
That's very, very
possible.
true.
Don't look at my
Real quick before we get out of here, because I know we're about to get out of here. We very, very, very briefly mentioned Gilbert Burns and moved on. How would you guys matchmake welterweight right now? Because he called out Colby tonight, and to me, like, I appreciate the call out, but that to me is not the fight. I still want. I would rather do Colby and Khamzat, and then Gilbert Bilal makes sense to me.
He should have called out Masvidal or Bilal. Those are the two names he should have called out. Masvidal, like, the story's there. He beats Masvidal, like, it's prize fighting. It's a prize fighting fight for him, and the story's there, and they're both been talking crap about each other. But Bilal was the choice. I mean, you spent your whole the best thing you said at Media Day was talking about Bilal jumping you in the rankings, and then it's like they just become each other. They have these, like, him and Bilal just have these shining moments and breakout moments, and then they get a microphone in front of them, and they just whiff. It's so bad. Like, everybody wants to fight Colby. Colby's not fighting Gilbert Burns. He's certainly not fighting Bilal Muhammad. Like, I just don't. I heard the call out, and I just was like, not good, not great. I'm with you though. I'm definitely with you.
I love disappointed dad Mike Heck. That's maybe my favorite Mike Heck.
I mean, it's so, like, it's. You had the prize fighting fight, and then you have the let's shut this dude up that I've been talking about all week fight. And it makes sense. Like, Bilal, if they offered Bilal Gilbert Burns, he has to take that fight. He has to take it. He's not getting a title shot. He's got to beat one more guy, and Gilbert is the dude. And Gilbert beats him, and Leon wins. Gilbert's the guy. But I just don't think Colby's going to come back and fight Gilbert Burns. I don't.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I actually think it matters. I don't think there's a great call out for him. So, like, it was fine. I don't think he's gonna get the fight, but I don't know who Colby's gonna fight if he's gonna fight. I also don't think that if he calls out Bilal and wins, he gets a title fight, because I am still of the belief that Khamzat will be fighting the winner of Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman. I know that the UFC has ideas of Khamzat fighting again, but March is coming up quickly, and once that's done, I don't know that they're going to insist. Maybe they do. I don't know, but it just seems like once that fight is close, Khamzat. Maybe you make Khamzat weigh in as the backup fighter just to prove that he can make the weight, and then he fights the winner. That feels like where we're going. I think the most obvious answer is that Gilbert has a shit draw in life, and he is going to have to fight Shavkat after Shavkat just greases Jeff Neal. And that's a tough out for him to have to fight Khamzat and Shavkat, but he'll do it because that man ain't scared of no man walking on 2 feet. Oh, do they?
They train together too.
Yeah.
I mean, not like full time, but like when Shavkat comes to the States, he trains at Kill Cliff.
Yeah.
So.
Jed's probably correct. I just didn't want to put it out there because I feel bad for Gilbert.
Well, that's the thing. Is I think that's the fight that happens, but you can't call for. I mean, I guess you could. I want the winner of Shavkat versus Jeff Neal. Like, it makes sense to go. I'm going to call up instead of this fight that's 2 months away and both of them are behind me. But it feels really likely that that's just Gilbert Burns' lot in life.
That being said, Burns versus Shavkat.
The fight rules. I mean, Shavkat's going to kill him because Shavkat's going to kill everybody, but that fight rules.
Yeah.
Poor Jeff Neal just sitting at home going, oh.
And Khamzat.
I haven't been lost yet.
I mean,
Khamzat
he hasn't officially lost yet, Casey,
Yeah.
but he did sign the contract, which feels like an L.
Yeah. Khamzat looks like he's chasing Jailton Almeida up to like middle of like in between light heavyweight and heavyweight right now.
Look, I agree. I do want to, since Khamzat was broached, I want to say that last year after the Burns fight, because I, hand up, have never given Gilbert Burns his due and probably never will because I have a mental block about him for whatever reason it is. I said after that fight, I don't think Khamzat's going to be a 3-division champion. And before, I was really gassed up and was like, he's going to win 3 belts. He's going to be the first guy to do it. Looking at the state of 205, I would pick Jamal Hill if they fought tomorrow. But if you just told me Khamzat got to fight Jamal Hill in 3 months, I wouldn't feel confident in picking Jamal Hill. Would any of you? Like,
No.
I don't know.
I don't know. I wouldn't pick against him probably, but like, I would pick confidently Khamzat to beat Alex Pereira. Like, feel really good about picking him to beat that. And 50-50 that he could beat Jamal Hill, which is insane. Truly insane.
Jamal
I like-
Hill's
I like- I
only
like- I
got
like-
2 inches on him. That's it. They're basically
Dude, he's so big.
very similar.
He's so sneaky. Like, I don't understand how he ever made welterweight. But
He's ginormous. Like I've stood next to the man.
it's enormous.
It's like you're stunned. You can't believe this man. Like I wouldn't believe he was a middleweight. That's how big he is. He's that big. It's insane. He's just a giant.
Where are you gonna put Hamza in your 205 rankings, Jed?
He hasn't actually fought there yet, even though, I mean, the Kevin Holland fight was pushing it. But he hasn't actually fought there, so
I think we should do the rankings where we just think fighters should be.
that's what most of my
That's
rankings
literally
are.
what Jed's rankings are.
Yeah.
You just described his
No.
rankings. Jed.
I have very limited rules about
Even if you don't fight in
it,
that
but mostly
division,
it's that.
just-
They talked me out of you weren't around for it. They are not allowing me to put my new number 1 bantamweight in the world because they're haters.
Oh, I know.
It's insane. It's insane.
Man, guys, you're making me laugh so much. I gotta be careful. I don't want to rip my stitches open. I'm trying to like not smile because I don't. Like, every time I smile, my face starts creaking.
We don't need to get into this, but since it just hasn't been mentioned, our shouts to Nicholas Dalby. The man, I think, is 5-0 against Brazilian fighters now. 2 of them in Brazil. This man has just no fear. No fear of the Brazilians. Goes into their home country, just does the damn thing again.
Yeah, he flies like 18 hours from wherever he lives, like Holland or something. I don't know where he lives, but
Finland, maybe?
Finland,
I think
no,
Denmark.
Denmark, yeah.
Oh, it's definitely Denmark, not
Denmark,
Finland.
yeah.
It's definitely Denmark.
Yeah. What a man. What a man.
Yeah, good win. And Daniel Santos too. What a performance to kick things off.
And
Brutal body
Josiane
work.
Nunez.
That was the funniest fight on the card.
That fight ruled.
Amazing. And
I won't say that fight
congratulations-
ruled, but it was funny.
It ruled, man.
Yes. And of course, congratulations to Jose Aldo, UFC Hall of Famer to be.
Was that the most predictable thing of all time?
Yes.
Oh, and then as soon as they announced it, then they bring the little graphic. Oh, you can watch Jose Aldo's boxing match on UFC Fight Pass. I was like, oh, okay. Now it all
Dude,
comes
Fight Pass
together.
getting the ADCCs is pretty sick, though. I will
That is
say.
cool.
Yeah, I agree.
That was cool.
As a man who owns Fight Pass and don't really know why a lot of the time, that's pretty dope.
That's the story of Fight
Good
Pass.
move. All right, well, you can hit the music. I
Ready
think
for the
we've done it. There'll be a lot more, I'm sure, 283 talk throughout the week on the MMA Hour, on BTL, Heck of a Morning, all of our shows. But yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna do on to the next one tomorrow, but I might have to like write things down and just hold up a sign with my matchmaking suggestions. But find out what I'm gonna do 11 a.m. tomorrow. Myself and AK, we will matchmake following UFC 283, and it was a good time tonight. So for Casey, Jed, Shaheen, I am Mike Heck. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the first pay-per-view of the year. Good night, everybody.
Love you guys.
Happy trails, Shogun. Happy trails, Glover Teixeira.
Glover.